Hi and welcome. Thank you so much for coming. And my name's Peggy, and I'm Clarity and Chaos. I appreciate everybody who took the time to come and watch and talk and have a little bit of a chat with me tonight. And if you are on the replay crew, thank you so much for watching this video. I really appreciate um, when you're trying to get up and started and you're not really sure if you're talking to anybody or if there's one person out there or if there's two people out there or if you're going up against other videos and everybody would rather watch the other videos. It gets a little nerve-wracking, but I've been fortunate enough to get a couple messages from people who are telling me that they really like my videos. One of my friends, I want to say hi to Liz. She's one of my oldest and dearest friends. We've been friends since um, our kids were very small, and she told me that my voice was soothing, and so I really appreciated that. That's actually helped me kick me in the rear to get me to go back to go on today. Um, so I it's hard to, put yourself out there and it's hard to make content and it's hard to do anything like this where you're making art, you're making music, any types of things. My kids have been actors, they've been in theater. One of my kids is a musician and he um both writes and performs and so I know that watching my kids put themselves out there time and time again. It's been really cool to see, but um I also know that they've been nervous. They've been scared or worried or what if it wasn't good enough? What if people don't like what they're doing? Things like that. So I understand and I've been struggling with the same thing lately. So I got a couple messages from people really like telling me that they appreciate my videos and so I just appreciate that. It's kind of what I needed, to kick me in the butt. Hi, Brendan. Brendan, from my crew, my That's So Effed Up crew in the podcast. And I love my That's So Effed Up crew. Everybody's great. We have a Discord. And um we have a great time in the Discord. It's such a just a great community because we could talk about anything that we need to talk about and everybody's so supportive. So it's like a free Discord and anybody can join it. But I love the fact that I've made so many like online friends that I they're all I don't want to say they're like messed up like me or but they're all like so similar that I can be like, look, I am having a mental health time right now. You're probably not going to hear from me for a week. And all of these people are like, dude, same. Like, I totally understand what you're saying. You're probably not going to hear from me for a week. So that's the kind of friends that I've made like on That's So Effed Up Discord and here in like the SPTV community. So I appreciate that so much because for the longest time, I had a hard time making friends that like understood, people try to be perfect or they try to pretend like there's nothing wrong with them or they try to pretend like um like their image on Facebook or Instagram, like they've got it all put together. And I've never pretended like that. I do not have it all put together by any means. And I've really never even pretended to because that's just a lot of work. That's just way too much work for me. I'm a very lazy person. And if something involves a lot of work, like pretending all the time, it's not going to happen. Hi, Auntie. Oh my goodness. Thank you so much for joining me from Finland. I appreciate you guys so much. So, I wanted to talk about the topic of grieving tonight because it's the holidays. And when you lose someone and you start going through all of those firsts, like the first birthday without them and the first anniversary, maybe wedding anniversary or anniversary that you became friends or whatever without them, the first holidays without them, all of these firsts that you experience after you've lost somebody. It's really hard, and I think sometimes over the years, it doesn't necessarily get easier. I know that one of the biggest ways to comfort people is to tell them, like, time heals, or, you know, if you're trying to comfort somebody when they're grieving, I think telling them that time heals is not the right way to go, because it doesn't necessarily heal. There's some people that I've lost where the time between when I've lost them and now, like, as it's getting longer, I'm actually, like, getting, I wouldn't say more heartbroken, but, like, it hurts. It really hurts because now I'm thinking, like, um, I have a sister-in-law who passed in 2004, and she was my best friend in high school. She's actually the only link that I have to who I was in high school. Like, no one else knows me from high school. No one else knows my stories. No one else knows who I was. She was the only link that I had. And so now thinking that next year is going to be 20 years without her, it hasn't made things easier for me. It's just made me think, um, that is 20 years that we could have done whatever. She also became my sister-in-law. I married her younger brother. And so, we were supposed to raise our families together, and we were supposed to, there's so many things that we were supposed to do together. We got married like 1 month apart. We there was just so much life that we were supposed to live together as families and as, like, sisters and best friends. And thinking that it's been 19 years without her, it just hasn't, like, no, I don't sit around and cry every day anymore by any means. But I still think about her every single day. I still think about what, you know, what we missed out on, like the life that we were supposed to have. I think about, her child, who is, a young trans man who is working very hard to find his way in the world and hasn't had a mom since he was 3 years old. Um, and y he doesn't know, like, would mom have approved of me? Would mom have liked what I'm doing? I did reassure him that his mom was very open person. We had, lots of people in high school who were all sorts of different. We were kind of part of a group of people that were just a ragtag group of all sorts of different people, and my friend Tabitha never had any sorts of prejudices or any, she didn't think anything was weird. She just like, hey, let's hang out. I don't really care, you know. So I did reassure him at some point that his mom would have accepted him, would have loved him, and would have encouraged him. And he said that that felt better. But there's just so many things that I think about as far as, his life would have been drastically, drastically different. He grew up in, not very good conditions with his dad and his stepmom, um, that, to the point where he moved out when he was 17 and didn't talk to his dad for a really long time. So I think about these types of things where, what if? I guess that's what I'm trying to say. And I know that, you know, there's people who say, like, there's no point in saying what if. There's no point in, um, thinking like should've, would've, could've, stuff like that. My friend Tabitha, she passed away of a brain aneurysm. She actually collapsed at work one day. Um other than the brain aneurysm, she was very healthy, normal. Um, how old were we? She was 28, and she was a normal, healthy person, but apparently she had been born with some type of bubble in a vein that burst, and the doctor said it was going to happen sooner or later. She was unresponsive immediately, and then the very next day she was taken off life support. So things that happen so fast like that, and people are taken from you so quickly, and it's hard to comprehend, you know? Like, they're actually gone. Um, they're actually gone. There's I know that the SPTV world, lost very recently somebody that everybody loved, and to us, it was a very sudden death. And so there's so many of my friends that are grieving, and they don't know, like I have a friend who's like, we used to text all the time. And like now, like I'm trying to pick up my phone to send him a text, and I'm like, oh yeah, crap, he's not there right now, which I've had experience with too. Um, so Tabitha died in the beginning of November, which is it's interesting because Tabitha was like a morbid person. Like she thought about death, she talked about death. We had like our funerals planned, all this weird stuff. And like she died, so she collapsed on November 1st and she passed on November 2nd, which the interesting part about that is that she was really interested in Day of the Dead. It was something that she was super interested in. She read a lot about it. So I think, in like that weird way, and like Halloween was her favorite time of year. So in that weird way, she kind of would have found it interesting that that's when she passed away. I know that that's a weird thing to say, but she also would have been very annoyed that she passed away a month after her 28th birthday, exactly. She would have been annoyed that she was not 27. She was not part of the 27 club because she was also very interested in that. Janis Joplin and Jimi Hendrix were two of her absolute favorite artists of all time. So all of these like little things that she would have been like, oh, damn it, like why didn't I die a month earlier or something like that. But we were kind of morbid people, and I've always been able to talk about death easily. I've always been able to communicate with people when they're grieving. I've always been able to, understand. Like I definitely have my own grief, and I have lost a lot of people, but I've been able to, you know, like empathize and be there with people, and I kind of try to make sure that I say the right thing. There are so many things not to say. I mean, 100% not to say, and I want to get into those in a little bit. But just kind of giving you a little bit of a background on where I'm coming from, and like, you know, the grief that I've been going through. I've lost all four grandparents, and I was very, very close to both sets of grandparents. They both raised me alongside my parents. So I was really, really close to both my grandmas. And both of my grandpas were people that I could, you know, hang out with whenever I needed to hang out with somebody. It, when I was little, I would go and stay with them maybe once a month for a weekend or so. They would watch me a lot. And then um, one of my grandfathers was actually a babysitter for me for like anytime there was like spring break or Christmas break, or I would stay with him for a couple weeks over the summer. Um, so losing them was very hard. Um, one of my grandmas was actually very suddenly, and we were not expecting her to pass at all. She passed away on her 82nd birthday. and we weren't expecting it at all. She had the flu, and we thought she just had the flu, she'd get over it, and everybody was trying to call her to say happy birthday, and she wasn't answering. That one was hard, really hard, again, because you're losing somebody very unexpectedly. And I think that the hardest part was watching my parents lose their parents. That was the hardest part. My dad, very close to his parents. My mom, very, very close to her parents. Her and her mom were best friends, you know? And so watching my mom lose her mom was one of the hardest things I've ever been through. It was just so hard to, I mean, they talked on the phone several times a week. My mom, it was about a hour drive to my grandparents, and so my mom was going there at least once a week, if not more. My grandma passed of Parkinson's, and you know, you always say like it's so good they're out of pain. It's so good that they're not hurting anymore. My grandma lived a really full life. All of my grandparents were in their 80s when they passed. So I can't be mad about that in the least. Living into your 80s and having a good life, all of them were like that generation where they actually got to retire and then like spend 20 years enjoying their retirement, which nobody can do anymore. And my grandma, who passed away very suddenly, and there we called them granny and granddad. They traveled the country, I mean, constantly. They had an RV. I got to go so many places around the country with them in the RV. They really did live a full life. Like, I know there's like another thing where people are like, well, they're old, how much longer do you expect them to live? Or, you know, I think we just thought that my granny, she told us she was going to live to 100. And she was one of the healthiest old people we knew. She walked every day and flossed her teeth, and she always ate well. She always had a great diet. So we really thought she was going to live till she was 100. Um, but losing grandparents is hard. My son-in-law just lost his grandpa, and his grandpa was a father figure to him, and it's the first major loss that my son-in-law's experienced. And so my heart really breaks for him because I completely understand what he's going through. you know I understand what it feels like to have that grandparent that you're so close to, that you talk to so much. um and he's now going through the holidays without his grandpa for the first time. They are going to go spend the holidays with his side of the family, which I think is great because they all really need to go support his grandma now, and his mom and his aunt, who, the first time without their dad. And I understand, you know, that they need that support around them going through your first holidays, and he just passed in the end of October. So it's still so fresh to all of them. And he was like the patriarch of the family, and not in a bad way. He is a great man, such a great guy. I love that Louisa had someone like him. He just loved her so much and thought the world of her. And I love that when my kids have that extended family like that, and they're loved so much in their extended family of their significant other. And so that really means a lot to me. So I appreciate that grandpa loved Louisa as much as he did. That means a lot to me. And um I'm also going through a painful year, and I'm going through firsts without someone that I love. I lost my best friend in um May. She was diagnosed 2 years earlier with terminal cancer. And she was given at the time in 2021, in April of 2021, she was given 6 months to live. And how many times do we hear that, but it was breast cancer that had um seeped into her bones. And I don't know, how much people might know about bone cancer, but it's pretty much the most painful. There's not much you can do. You can get marrow transplants, and you can get stem cell transplants, and there are things that can be done, but hers was very aggressive and was was traveling fast through her body. She did end up getting cancer in her liver, which was extremely painful for her. Um, so her spending 2 years going through this, and I wasn't necessarily watching her because she's long distance from me, but we're on the phone, we're texting, we're talking every single day. And so in a way, I'm like watching her die, if that makes sense. And she's crying to me. She's in so much pain. There's no pain meds that can help her whatsoever. There's nothing that can help. And it's awful thing to go through. It's so awful. She When she passed away, she was like 87 pounds. She had not been able to eat in quite some time because there were like massive sores and blisters in her mouth and in her throat. The medicine, the chemo, stuff like that, that is harsh and nasty and harmful on your body. It's so harmful. She got to the point where she said, "I'm going to die. Like, stop giving me this. Like, just please let me just live the rest of my life. I can't keep going through this." The the chemo was just so harsh on her. And I know her husband, he wanted her as long as he could have her, but that's a conversation for another day. Um we can't, I mean, we can't be selfish. I know that's hard, and it's a hard thing for me to say cuz I wasn't in that position. But I wouldn't want to force someone to be in that much pain, I guess, just so that they could stay alive a little longer. But one thing that did help my friend, Judy, is that her son, um, in the fall of 2020, he, took his own life, and that was her only child. And when she was diagnosed with cancer, she was grieving so heavily, and she assumes that she probably missed a lot of signs because she was grieving so heavily. Um, which I mean makes sense, right? Totally understandable. You are going to, like, when your body takes on that much grief and that much trauma, you're gonna miss all these signs. You're gonna miss, like, her back was hurting for a long time. She assumed her back was hurting all the time because, she was like sleeping on the couch or sleeping in the chair, or sorry, my middle schoolers gave me a cold. Um, she just assumed that the back pain was from something else. We actually even both bought the same, because I suffer from a lot of shoulder pain. So we both bought the same thing, like, that we saw, like, one of those as seen on TV things, and it's like a warmer. I mean, it's a big warmer, a big heating pad, but it's got like these little things in it that are supposed to like massage. So we both bought that for ourselves, and it ended up being a piece of crap because the little massagers like stay in one place, so you have to like somehow awkwardly like try to get them on your back in like the right position, and it was really stupid. So it was something that we both laughed a lot about. But the back pain actually ended up being a whole bunch of little tiny fractures in her spine from the bone cancer. So that actually ended up being like something really serious that she was going through. Um, she she was somebody that I've known for about 16 years online. The parasocial friendship. I met her in a mom's chat room way back when our kids were little, and we were both stay-at-home moms at the time, and we were both, just kind of lonely and looking for people to talk to. We both bonded over dogs. I got a puppy, and she knew a lot about dogs, and so she helped me a lot. I asked her a lot of questions about the puppy. Um, and then we clicked so much. We became great friends. And for a while we did the email thing where you just constantly email each other back and forth all day long. And then we, chatted on the phone. We did couponing together, like we would send each other coupons. We always sent each other pictures of the kids, Christmas cards. Every year she did a Christmas photo of her son, and as he got older, he did it, like, to humor her, you know? It was kinda cute. He was a great kid, really, really great kid. Um, they don't know why he chose to unalive himself. He actually was missing for 10 days. They couldn't find him. She was hoping that he had just run away, but there were no clues really. She'd gone through his room. There was no note. She couldn't find anything that tipped her off. And he actually had just graduated community college, and he had wanted to be a police officer like his whole life. And he got a job at the police department. So he graduated with a criminal justice degree. He got a job at the police department, like some desk job. And then from there, he was gonna, go to police academy and yada yada. He was actually about to sign for his first apartment by himself. He was 20. He had a really good job. He bought himself his own car. You know, when someone is about to unalive themselves, one of the things that they'll do is get rid of stuff, or they'll stop doing things. They'll stop progressing in their life. Like they're not going to get a new job. They're not going to get a new apartment. They're not going to buy a new car. So as far as I know, up until Judi passed away, she didn't really know or understand. There was something else going on. He was usually a pretty open book with her, but as we all know, like ourselves, we definitely didn't tell our parents everything. Our kids by no means are going to tell us everything. Um, so there are things that she never knew. Um, After he passed away, I had a chance to become a um, counselor on a suicide hotline for LGBTQ youth. And so I've been doing that for a year and a half now. So I do that in honor of him, um, and in honor of, I have a trans niece and I have a trans nephew. And I have lots of family who are somewhere on the LGBTQ spectrum, here or there. I myself am on the LGBTQ spectrum. So I wanted to give back in a way that was going to be super significant. And since I know that I can handle these discussions, and I know that I can usually keep a cool head, for the most part, there are some that really mess with me. There are some chats that I've had that have, you know, really affected me, but the good news is that they always have somebody that we can call, if we had like a really if we had a really bad chat, there's somebody that we can call, or there's a supervisor on shift that I can talk to immediately if I need to. And I have, been in therapy myself talking about it. So, I just like to hold that space for those people, because the number one reason why LGBTQ youth do take their own lives is because they don't have anybody there for them. They don't have somebody to talk to. They don't have parents that are willing to support them. They don't have a, a good school. They don't have friends that care about them, or at least in their mind, they don't think they do. And that's the important part. So the hotline is so important because they'll come to us even if they're not thinking about unaliving themselves. They'll come to us just because they had a really bad day. And that's perfect, because you want to talk to those kids before something happens. You want to show them that there is somebody there for when it does get really bad. But for right now, it's not really bad. So let's just chat about whatever's going on in your life right now, you know? And then the kids who do come to us and it is severe, we're able to work at like de-escalating, helping them out with whatever's going on in their life right at that moment. Um, Talking about like coping mechanisms. We talk about what they can do to take care of themselves. We help them make a safety plan. We help them, we have like, teach them some grounding techniques, whatever it is that's going on in their life that they're considering this. There are um there's techniques that we can kind of help them, like, to de-escalate, to when they walk away from us, they're going to have a safety plan. So like the next time this pops up, um they're going to be able to, whatever it is we talked about, they're going to go take a shower, they're going to go read a book, they're going to go call their best friend, they're going to go play video game, whatever it is. That's gonna help them in that moment, and then they're gonna contact us, because we're open 24/7, we're available all the time. It's one of the favorite things that I do, and I had to train really hard to do it. I had to train for a long time, and like I said, some of them kinda mess me up. Some of them, you know, but I feel so grateful that I'm able to talk to people about this stuff without, I'm not saying I don't ever cry, um, but I can just talk about death in a way that makes it maybe not scary. And that's something that I learned from my mom. And my mom is actually a bereavement minister at her church, and she runs a bereavement group every week, that people come to, and then she'll also do one-on-one. She'll meet people. I mean, she'll meet people at Starbucks or whatever. She'll meet people for lunch and do a one-on-one if they want to. She's had a lot of training. Um, my mom kind of like, I don't know how to say this without sounding weird, but my mom kind of like exposed me to all of this as when I was younger, but not in like a weird, creepy, bad way. I don't know how to say it without making it sound weird, but like she would bring me to funerals when I was young and just kind of show me like, this person's passed on, I was raised Christian, so it was, this person's gone to heaven. But it was just, I don't I don't know, like I said, I don't know how to say this without sounding weird or making my mom sound bad, because it wasn't in a bad way, but it was like showing me that, everybody's gonna die. It's not scary. I mean, sometimes it's gonna be scary, obviously. I wouldn't want anybody ever, ever to go through what Judy went through. Um, but it's not something that you should spend your entire life being perpetually afraid of, I guess is the right way to say it. And so I appreciate that she kind of took that stance with me, and I guess I've been able to um use it for good, I guess. I have had to jump in and like help people plan a couple funerals because they're too distraught. They don't know what to do. They don't know how to do it. So like I know how to help plan a funeral. I know how to, there's so many things that I know how to do that I can jump in if I need to. And I'm also able to like keep my head, until the time comes that then I'm finally gonna grieve now. Like with my father-in-law, he passed away in 2010, and he had been dying of cancer for a while, but they refused to plan a funeral because they thought that planning a funeral was morbid, and if they planned a funeral, then he was definitely gonna die. And I'm sure that some of you have heard that before. So some of you maybe feel that way. So when the time came, he had hardly anything set up for the funeral. And so was the one who worked with um the pastor at the church, the funeral director. Um I was the one who was like pretty much leading my mother-in-law around like this is what we got to do, and you know getting making sure we have his death certificates. And um so I am at least useful in that way if I need to be. Bye, Brendan. Thank you so much for coming. I really appreciate you. I'm going to go and see some comments here. Okay, Auntie said, I think that time heals, but only if one can go on with their life. If one gets stuck in grief, then time can reinforce rather than heal. So earlier I was talking about that sometimes I think that it's harder as time goes on, because as time goes on and that space between the last time that you saw them and now gets wider, it gets a little harder. I think like for me, like think of all of the things that we should have been doing, or the life that we were supposed to have, and I'm kind of grieving more the life that we were supposed to have together. Um but I totally understand what you're saying, Auntie, because if you do grieve too much and if you're stuck there in that grief and you choose not to even try to move forward, yeah, I understand what you're saying. And that is my mother-in-law. So between losing her daughter in 2004 and losing her husband in 2010, she's stuck in that place and she hasn't moved forward. Um, to the point of like kind of pushing away the rest of her family because she's missing the ones that aren't there so much. So she has chosen not to really enjoy the ones that are still here. So I completely understand what you're saying there. Hi, Ashley. I knew you'd like the tree. I totally forgot to show it to you. My cute little tree. Goodbye by Spice Girls came on the Peloton this AM, and I sobbed just thinking of all the people I've lost over the years by them passing away or just ending relationships. You know what song really, really gets me is it's that song that you remember when Paul Walker died and then they had the Fast and Furious episode or movie, and at the end of the movie they played man, I wish I could remember the song. Oh, it'll pop in my brain like suddenly a little bit later. Anyways, that's the song that seriously gets me. Like seriously. So Brendan said, I'm always in fear of saying the wrong thing. And I understand that. That's a big fear for a lot of people. One thing that my friend Judy found out was when her son died, so many people didn't know what to say or what to do for her that they actually just stopped talking to her. That was so painful for her. She said she would even rather they say the wrong thing, than just completely stop. And um, when she was diagnosed with cancer, there were even more people that stopped talking because then again they didn't know what to say to her. Like, "Oh, I'm so sorry you're going to die." Um Really, you just need to be that space for them where they're going to be comfortable coming to you, because when you lose somebody or when you're diagnosed with something terminal, you don't have a lot of places you can go to just cry, to just be pissed off, to be, you know, to just be every emotion that you're feeling at that time. There's not a lot of places you can go. So, as a friend or a family member, I want to make sure that I'm that person that they can go to and they can kick and they can scream and they can do whatever the frick they want, and I'm never going to tell them it'll get better, they're there, you're strong. That's not a good thing to say. You don't need to tell them that they're strong, because in that moment they don't feel strong. And you know what? They don't have to be strong. There's no one that says that when you lose a child, you have to be strong. Like, no. When you lose your parents, you don't have to be strong for anybody. That's one thing that really bothers me, is when people say, "Oh, you're so strong, you're handling this so well." That really ticks me off. That's not the best way to go about talking to people. And just be that open space where they can come and they could just do whatever they need to do. They need to have someone where they can go and scream and yell and kick and you know what? Laugh about stupid shit. Laugh about really dark, morbid shit. I've had people who they honestly just needed a person who didn't think that they were completely sick and disgusting because they were laughing about morbid shit. I'm a type of person who I may laugh at inappropriate times. Um, I cry at really weird times and I laugh at really weird times. Sometimes I don't have that balance. But yeah, just be that open space. It's really one of the best things that you can do. I always feel comforted hearing, "How can I support you right now?" Yeah, that's very perfect, because if you say to somebody, "Let me know if I can do something," they're never gonna call you up and let you know. If you say, you know, "How can I support you? What do you need to hear?" Um, or if you're close to them and you can physically go to them, then physically go to them and do their dishes, do their laundry, take their dog for a walk, take their kids out for a little while. Um, After my sister-in-law passed, I would go and take my nephew out for just for a day, because the kids need to get away from the grief. They need to go eat some ice cream and play at the park and maybe go play some video games in an arcade or go bowling. They need to get away from the grief for a while. And whoever's at home, they need to stop having to be strong for a while. When you're being strong for the kids and you don't want to cry in front of the kids, you don't want to make them upset, you don't want to, whatever, you need to just sleep, or you need to take the longest ass shower of your life, or whatever it is. So, yeah, if you're close enough to somebody, just go over there and just do stuff. Don't ask them, you know, "Let me know what I can do for you," because when they're in so much grief, they don't know. They don't know what you can do for them. They have no idea. They cannot think straight. So, I like that, Ash. Thank you. Hi, Joel. I hope you're doing well. My parents are both 98. They're in an assisted living place. My dad is blind. Mom has lots of heart problems. They're both tired of the fight. It's sad to see them. I'm so sorry, Joel. That's so hard to go through. It's so hard. I don't honestly know what I'm going to do when it's my time. My parents are both, early to mid 70s, and they're both, doing pretty well right now. But I'm very, very close to them, and I live far away from them. So when it comes to the point where, maybe their health is declining, and I don't know what, it's going to be really hard. I don't think that I can move back to where they live, but we'll have to see. I'm sorry, Joel. It's such a hard place to be in. And like I said, I've watched my parents go through it with their parents. Joel says, I have had experience with grief. My sister passed when she was 17. Oh my goodness. She was sick all her life. I lost my brother in '05 suddenly from a car accident. My daughter died at 3 months old from SIDS. Oh, Joel, my goodness. I am so sorry for that. I'm so sorry to hear that. I know that one time you told me that your all of your cats were your kids, and I love that because our pets are like they really are our children. My pets are absolutely my children. And that's another thing I wanted to talk about tonight too is the pain and the grief that you have when you lose a pet. And um I'm going to get into that a little bit later, but that's a lot, Joel. I'm so sorry. My experience is that you never really get over it. You just learn to live with it 100%. You just learn to live with it. So Auntie says, someone really close, I've only lost my mother. She's middle-aged, and I'm coincidentally the same age myself. Wow. Okay. That's really interesting. When she passed away, she wasn't even 50. That's young. That's just too young. Mm, I hate that. I'm sorry. Gallows humor can be a coping mechanism. It is for me at times, at least. Uh-huh. Yeah, it definitely is for me. I can laugh about some pretty dark stuff, but yeah, for me it's just a way to get through. My mom is also so my mom was a nurse for like 42, 43 years, something like that. And I can't say she necessarily has a dark sense of humor, but I know that a lot of nurses use dark humor to get through things, and my mom has worked in some really rough places. She's worked with a lot of people that aren't going to make it, and so she's had a rough career, and I know that it took a toll on her big time. But I do know that a lot of nurses, people in the medical field, they'll be able to like tell some dark jokes, and not everybody understands that, or they think it's naughty. Or Ashley says sometimes people want advice, and sometimes people just want someone to listen or be there to hold space with them. Uh-huh. Absolutely. Yeah, and try I would suggest try to stay away from advice unless they ask. Um, one thing that I've noticed that people will do in these situations is they'll say, "When my aunt lost her husband, blah, 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 blah." Or when I lost my mom, I did this in remembrance of her. And it's like you're trying to connect with them and you're trying to say, like, I'm here in the same level with you, and that's great. And I do it too. Like, I do that a lot too. But there are certain situations when you're talking about grief that they don't want to hear that right now, and they've already heard it from 10 other people. So if you're that person that, like when you say, like, is there anything I can do for you? Is there anything, can I listen to you? Things like that. If they say, I really need to know, like, how did you handle it when you lost your dad? You know, then it's a good way to share that advice, but the unsolicited advice goes for everybody. I think about, like, when I was pregnant and all of the little old ladies that constantly give me unsolicited advice, and, like, I don't care. I don't care. I don't need your advice. Hi, poet. My oldest is almost 12. It's going to kill me when she goes. Your oldest pet, I assume? Um, I have so this year I've lost 2 babies. One in January and one in October. The one in January was really rough, and to me it was really sudden. Um, he had bladder cancer, and the actual, like, cancer spot was over, like, the part where the pee, like, goes into the urethra. So he couldn't urinate anymore, but it happened fast. It was like 1 week he was peeing just fine. The next week he, like, literally could not pee anymore. And it was one day we went to the doctor and did the scans and got the diagnosis, and then the very next day we were letting him go because he was just in tremendous pain. And that happened so fast. He was 12, he was almost 13 years old, and I know that's considered a senior, but to me that was young. To me that was, like, too young. He was just a little puggle. He's just a small dog. So I felt like that was way too soon, way too young, and I definitely was not ready for that one. The baby that I lost in, October, she was a 17-year-old Yorkie, and I knew I wasn't gonna have a lot of time with her. I adopted her when she was 13 and a half ish. And so I knew when I adopted her that I wasn't gonna have a whole lot of time with her. So letting her go was hard, but it was also like she was 17, she had Yorkies, like there's like a congenital, is that, am I saying that right? Heart problem that Yorkies can get. It's I wouldn't say like common, but it's like a genetic thing for Yorkies. And so um it was at least easy to make the decision to let her go, but different situation than when we had to let our puggle go, and it was just like, I mean, even my kids were like in shock when I had to call them and say, "Okay, we have to go. I'm leaving now, and he's going to be letting him go in a half hour." And my kids were like, because my kids live all over the country, and so they were in shock. Um, and then in May of 2022, I had an emotional support dog, and oh wait, no, go back. Yeah, May of 2022. She was my emotional support dog. She's a beautiful, beautiful Boston Terrier, and she ran out into the road, um, which is once in a while, once in a great while, she would escape the yard and just, like, run around the block, but she happened to this time run across the road, at, like, you know, 7 at night when it was, like, rush hour in front of our house as we were on a busy street. She got hit. She did die instantly, which I guess is, as they say, at least they died instantly, at least they didn't feel any pain. But that was rough, and I'm still just ridiculously heartbroken. She was just the most beautiful dog. She was my emotional support animal because she is very empathic. So with my mental health struggles, she would, lay on my head, lay on my heart. She would cuddle up beside me or lay on my feet. Like she kind of knew my spots that comforted me. And then also I just have like physical medical problems, and so she could detect that too. And so she would, if I had a migraine, she'd lay on my head, or like I have IBS, so if I had a flare up, she would lay on my belly. It's just like she just knew instinctively. And so while I absolutely adore all of my babies, that was just a very unique relationship. And um a lot of people say that they have like one heart dog, like one dog that's literally connected to your heart, and that's your heart dog. And it's so rare to find that. Um, but I have two dogs right now, so I've got two babies left. One of them is like 14 and a half, 15. So she's old. She has gotten very slow. She's very gray. She's got some tumors and some cysts. She's part lab, and labs are prone to tumors and cysts and stuff. So, um, she's definitely the next to go to the vet, and I've kind of been putting it off because I'm pretty worried about it. I can't. I don't think that I can sanely lose another baby right now. Um, Joel says, one of the reasons I do rescue is because of my sister. She is why I love cats. I do it in many ways because of her. It helps me to think of her. She would do it if she was here. I love that so much. That's beautiful. Um, so one of the reasons I do rescue is because um I have lost a couple people that were big into rescue. So I do it to honor them. When I very first got into working in a shelter for the first time, it was 2018. I had just lost a sweet little friend of mine. He was 10 years old. He also passed from sarcoma, from bone cancer. And he was such a wonderful little boy. He volunteered at his hospital, even when he was feeling sick. He would go around to he loved to do ventriloquism, and he had his own little ventriloquist doll. And he would go around to people's rooms when he was admitted, and he would do little ventriloquist shows for them. He was just such a sweet guy. Um and I've always been in service. I've spent my entire life in service of other people. Another thing my mom taught me, volunteering. I've always volunteered my entire life, ever since I was pretty much a baby. And so at that time, I was looking for something to do. I was looking for something to volunteer for. And so I had signed up to volunteer in the children's ward at the hospital. And as I was talking with the woman who was in charge of volunteering, and she was asking me why I wanted to do it, and I said, I lost my little friend a couple months ago, and my heart's really broken, and I want to do something to honor him. And she told me point blank that I should probably not, at that point in time, work with children in the hospital, that it would not go well for me. And as I talked to other people about it, they kind of agreed. So I chose to work in the shelter instead, and it's one of the best decisions I've made. I got two of my babies from there, and made really, really great friends there. Um, and it's actually the shelter itself is near Colorado Springs in Colorado. So next year, when I do get to move back to Colorado Springs, I'll get to go back to the shelter and um, volunteer and maybe find another beautiful little red Boston again. I'm hoping, but um, I think that honoring somebody's memory in such a way, like, like I chose to do the suicide hotline for my friend and her son. I think that that's one of the absolute best ways to, hold their memory in your heart, even if you're just doing it for yourself and you're not telling other people about it. Like, I don't often tell people why I do shelter work, or why I'm on the suicide hotline. It's not really something I talk about a whole lot, but to me, it just keeps that person, in my heart. And I know that certain people, like, I know my grandma would be proud of me because of all the volunteering I do, which she taught my mom taught me, that you should live your life in service. Um, so I love the idea of just doing something that I guess they would be proud of, or they would have done themselves. That's something that means a lot to me. Grief is so personal. We all process it so much differently. We really do. We really do. There is no one way to grieve by any means. Um, so there's that, like, I don't remember what it's called, like the 6 stages of grief or something like that. There's like the denial and the anger and the I don't know. I don't remember what they all are, because I don't follow them. But I saw a meme one time where there was pretty much like a zigzag back and forth between all of the words, and it was like, this is actually how grief is. Like, you don't go from step to step to step. You go back to denial and back to anger and back to crying and back to blaming, I think is one of them, something like that. Like, there really is no one way. And also on our part, when we are taking care of a loved one who's grieving, we should not expect them to grieve in any certain way. If they don't cry for a certain amount of time, they don't cry. Like, don't wonder why they're not crying. There's just their brain, it's just not there at that point in time. Or if they're crying way too much and they refuse to get out of bed, maybe the best thing you could do is encourage them to get up and get a shower. But um another thing that bothers me that goes along with this is when people will say, well, my dad died too, and that's not what I did. My child died too, and I just kept moving. I just picked my head up and kept moving. I stayed strong. And comparing doesn't help anybody either. Making sure that they're just loved and taken care of. Oh, you have 3 dogs. Okay. Yes, I agree. I always called my puggle my little puppy. Always. He was always my little puppy. And now I have a little dachshund, and just because he's little, we call him Puppy. So I was actually just talking to Jen about um my little ESA in Jen's live that was shortly before mine. So she said it sounds like she was more like a service dog by performing DPT. I mean, yeah, that's what I've had people say to me before. And So I could not train her. She was the most stubborn thing on the planet. So she could never really be like a service dog. Like I couldn't train her. There's no way. It was not happening. So, as much as I would have loved to officially make her a service dog, she was just officially an ESA, which I know is a lot different. But she was the most stubborn thing on the planet. I would never have been able to teach her to sit or heel or like, no, it was not going to happen. She was going to do her own thing when she wanted to do it. The thing I've learned from the losses in my life is don't put off telling those you care for how you feel. Tomorrow never comes. I love that. Joel, that hits me really hard. That hits me really, really hard because my sister-in-law Tabitha and we had a falling out about a year before she passed. And we had not spoken to each other. And the last interaction that we had with each other was 2 months before she passed at a family event, and it was not good. There were words said, and very hurtful words said, and so one of my biggest regrets is, I mean, like what do I do? I could I have picked up the phone and apologized? I actually wasn't the one that said the hurtful words. Um, could I have asked her what happened and why she disliked me and why she was, being rude to me? I could have. I wasn't comfortable in that time in our relationship anymore. At one point, I would have definitely asked her point blank, what the hell is wrong with you? Why are you acting so jacked up? But it had been a year and I just didn't feel comfortable anymore approaching her, I guess. Um, I had also felt that there was a certain person who had purposely driven a wedge between us and encouraged that wedge to get bigger. Uh, so there was that. It was a complicated thing, and I'm always going to have regret. I know that I've been told by so many people, by my other sister-in-law, by my husband, by so many people that like I'm sure Tabitha forgave you, Tabitha loved you. But it's always going to be there. It really is always going to be in my brain. Um there's just nothing that's gonna, make that go away, honestly. Ashley says, Joel, I've been considering that recently as I've been thinking about connecting with my toxic parents again. hmm yeah, this is something that Ashley and I have talked about before, reconnecting with toxic people in your life. That is one of the hardest things to do. People who have truly, truly hurt us. I do have a couple toxic people in my life that I don't speak to anymore. And yeah, what's going to happen when they pass? Um, should I have reconnected with them? Should I have called them and apologized or, forgiven them? Or um, it, it's just so hard, and it's case by case basis. It truly depends on what the person's done to you and things like that. Also, be kind. Think about it before you say or do things. Say to yourself, is this the kindest thing you can say? Yeah. I work pretty hard at being kind. Sometimes, things slip out and I don't say the kindest things, which happened very recently with me and my sister. And I said some very unkind things. And now I'm going to go through the holidays without getting to talk to my sister because she takes a long time to heal, which, you know, it is what it is, right? Yeah, Ash, I mean, good luck, and, um, I hope you let me know how it goes, right? The best thing about animal rescue is that the life you save is yours. Mhm. Yeah, my babies, I can definitely say that my babies have saved my life. There's that saying, "Who rescued who?" which has gotten a little too, overused, but it's, it's true. There are times that, um, I think that my kids are amazing, my kids are brilliant. I'm very close to all 3 of them. I'm super, super proud of all 3 of them. Best things about my life, but they don't still sit here and cuddle with me every night, you know? They're all grown up and off doing their own things while my, you know, dachshund and my cat, like, fight over who gets to sit on my lap, you know? That I love that. So, Pet Groomer has the cutest, most beautiful service dog. She has this beautiful pit. If you ever get a chance, go to her channel. She's got a lot of cool stuff because she grooms animals, like her name says. But go hit up her channel, and her dog is so beautiful. I want a pet someday. That's why I never did public service with my Doxy. He was just too small, and though he was trained, he wasn't the most social. So, my Dachshund came from a really bad hoarding situation. They pulled, they pulled it was either 56 or 65. I'm really bad with numbers, but one or the other dogs, dachshunds, chihuahuas, and chiweenies out of this hoarding house. And I won't describe to you what it was like in there, but it was a breeding situation gone bad. Um, and the majority of the dogs were so under socialized that um, they couldn't be handled. So my dachshund was one of the worst. His name is Crockett after Tubbs and Crockett on uh, Miami Vice, and he was at the shelter for 908 days before I adopted him. I was on the rehab team then, and I had started working with him. A lot had been done to him, or that sounds bad. A lot had been done with him on the rehab team by the time I started working there, but he and I got attached pretty fast. And so there were 2 dogs that I had my eye on that were on the rehab team. One of them was this cute little chihuahua. My husband was so set against chihuahuas at the time. And the other one was Crockett. So the chihuahua got adopted, and Crockett had never had anyone ask about him. He had never had an application put in for him, even though he was actually like a famous dog in the shelter. Um, Everybody knew him. He was pretty famous, but um I'd gotten to the point where I could handle him. I could do anything I wanted to with him. I could pick him up. I could mess around with him, and he asked me for belly rubs all the time. So we were moving from Colorado to Kansas in a military move. So I told my husband, because I was really upset about the move, I didn't want to leave Colorado. I said, okay, like, we're leaving. I understand, but you're letting me adopt Crockett. Like, there wasn't really much of a choice. Although, luckily, Crockett took to my husband right away. They became good friends pretty fast. But I was not leaving him behind. He's just one of my best little buddies. Life is a recipe made up of good times, bad times, regrets, and joy. It is all the way of life, At 69, I feel I have earned the right to say that you certainly have, Joel. Um, for anybody who doesn't know Joel, he always says a lot of really great things. He always has so much wisdom, and I really appreciate what he brings to the discussion. He's become a nice friend of mine, and Joel, I always appreciate your thoughts. And it's true. It's like I know it's in the Bible, but it's also like a bird song. There's a season for everything. There's a time for this and a time for that. And um we're definitely gonna have our ups and downs, right? But how we handle the downs, how we handle our loved ones' downs, you know, how we stand there for other people and help them. I think that makes the big difference. With my mental health problems, I'm pretty open and honest about what issues I have, but as far as like official diagnosis, depression and anxiety disorder, there's a bunch of other disorders in there, but um I have a lot of downs because even though I'm on meds, I can't always help it. It's, because it's in my brain. I can't always help. I don't always get to choose, when my downs come. Sometimes I crash hard. Um, I've I've put my family through a lot, because those of us with mental health problems, it's what we do sometimes, and not definitely not proud of it, but I have worked really hard to make sure that I'm there for other people when they're on their downs, because I know how it feels to be left out left out in the open, and I've crashed, and I'm really down, and my husband doesn't have depression, so he doesn't understand, and not saying that he doesn't help me by any means, but he can't understand what it's like, you know? His version of sad is, thinking about missing his dad and, drinking a beer to the old man and, then he's okay, you know? So, definitely not my version of sad by any means. We're a little bit different on that. I can't just drink a beer and be like, "Okay, love you. Hope you're doing good up there," you know? Um, so I like to I think one of my biggest ways to honor people that I've lost is, um, to make sure that I'm open and there for anybody else, being a like that shoulder to cry on, or like Ashley said, just give them that space. Sometimes they just need space to hang, space to chill. I've even sat silent on the phone with people, just somebody's like, I just need someone on the phone, but I don't feel like talking. And I'm like, cool, because I've got some house cleaning to do. So I'm just going to hold you here and I'm going to go do my house cleaning. Just this week, I helped with a rescue, not my usual. It was a breeder thing gone very bad. It is a terrible thing. I was asked to help by dog rescue friends. It's hard, isn't it? It's so hard I don't know, Joel, did you go in like the house and help pull them out? I've done that with cats. I was the director of like there was like a rescue, and there was like the dog side and the cat side. So I was director of the cat side of the program, and I had gone in a couple different situations where I pulled cats out of nasty, houses. And one of them was a pretty bad hoarding situation. One of them was just they had a couple cats, but they never ever ever cleaned up after them, and it was just feces everywhere, and the cats were terrified, you know. So I've seen some gross stuff, and it breaks my heart knowing, where some of these rescue animals come from. The rescue that I volunteer for in Colorado Springs, it's called National Mill Dog Rescue, and they go get dogs from puppy mills, mostly in Kansas, Missouri, Arkansas. Missouri and Arkansas are two of the worst states in the country for puppy mills. They have the worst laws that protect animals. Actually, they have no laws that protect animals. Oklahoma is another bad state. Uh, so the animals that they get at National Mill Dog Rescue, and I would give them a follow on Facebook. One of my really good friends is the social media um, person, and she does some great stuff on Facebook. But they rescue some broken dogs. They're great with their rehabilitation program, which I used to be in, and they do some amazing work getting these dogs ready to go in a home. But there have been many times where I would walk into work at like the day after a rescue came back, and I would just be in tears seeing some of these dogs and how terrified they are. They're how matted and gross and disgusting they are because they don't get any they're literally stuck in a cage their entire lives. Most of them don't even ever get to come out of that cage. So, Joel, I have yeah, I mean, I understand you. Joel says, I have been involved with some horrible rescues, but the last one was one of the worst. If you're thinking of rescue, remember the hard ones are not for everyone. Lots you can do. Pick up what works for you. Right. It's rescue, like volunteering at a shelter can be a lot of fun because if you're okay with cleaning, if you're okay with like poop and stuff like that, the very first time that I volunteered, I was just pretty much cleaning kennels. I'd go in the morning, I'd clean kennels and maybe take a couple dogs out for socialization and then go home. It took me a little while to build up into like the rehabilitation and stuff like that. But I really enjoyed like there's dogs that are more sociable, and so they have these things called puppy parties. And so I really enjoyed like just getting to take a couple dogs out that were like social together and just watching them interact and play. So there are some really fun things that you can do in a rescue or fostering. I've fostered dogs, I've fostered cats. Fostering kittens is one of my favorite things in the world. And that's what Joel and his wife do. I love fostering kittens so much, especially what I call the spicy kittens, which are ones that are like these teeny little babies, but they hiss at you. I call them the spicy kittens because they think that they're so big and bad and tough. Yes, 100%. They can burn in HE double toothpicks, and the breeders can burn. There is a special extra crispy place for some of these breeders, for sure. In it, I am a massive advocate for adopting, not buying at pet stores. I please, please, please would suggest that you adopt first if you absolutely have to have a full breed for whatever reason it is. There are rescues that are like breed specific. So if you have to have a German Shepherd and it's the only thing you've ever wanted in your entire life, there are breed specific rescues that you can find. No, they might not be in the town next to you. You may have to drive a couple hours, but if you're willing to go find that dog that's really special to you and that you're going to have for the rest of its life, you should be willing to, make that trip and go. People travel from all over the world to adopt dogs from National Mill Dog Rescue. They travel from all over the country all the time. There are people that have come down from Alaska. There are people that have traveled in from all over the world to adopt dogs from there. That's how special this place is. So, and they get full breeds because, they pull from breeders. So they get, if you want a Maltese, if you want a Shih Tzu, if you want a Shiba Inu, if you want a Husky, if you want a German Shepherd, they get full breeds. Bulldogs, they get English Bulldogs all the time. So there are lots of places where you can go to get those full breeds. But going into a puppy store, I guarantee you the puppy's going to be sick. The puppy's going to have worms. The puppy's going to have RSV. It's going to be sick. It's going to make your other dogs sick. It's going to have fleas. There's a chance that it may not even be the age that they're telling you it is. They will lie to you, and they can actually lie to you. They can lie to you about where it came from. They'll tell you that it came from a rescue. The puppy stores, the dog stores, the pet stores are so dishonest, and with cats too, with kittens too. There are cat mills. They're so dishonest, and there is no law against it. They do not have to tell you the truth about these dogs. They'll tell you that they came from this special breeder, and they breed in their backyard, and like both the mom and the dad are there, and it's so nice and lovely, and they have a big green backyard. And I promise you that is not where they came from. And I will happily do an episode on puppy mills and show you what the puppy mills look like and where these puppies are coming from, because it's really important to educate yourself and kittens and bunnies. It's so important to educate yourself about where you're getting these animals from. If you are going to go to a breeder and you are going to get a certain type of dog, and you do want to pay the $3,000 for it or whatever it's going to be, there are breeders who you can go to their home and you can meet the mom and the dad, and you can see where the dog was raised. And that is the only possible way that I would suggest, which I still am not a super big fan of it, but still the only way that I would possibly suggest. So Pup Groomer says, I'm an advocate for adoption as well. There have been very few reputable breeders that I have met over the 20 years I've been in the business. Yeah, they're just so few and far between. I mean, they're out there, but you're going to pay. I mean, you are going to pay for it. And Jen did her episode on service dogs, and service dogs, you've got the perfect golden retrievers, and they come from the breeder, and they're specially bred for being a service dog, and that's why they're born, and they're trained and stuff like that, but you're going to pay out the wazoo for it. I have done the whole thing. Inside some horrible things: hoarders, puppy mills, torture, neglect. Some have haunted me to this day. I can only imagine, Joel. I know. Yes, we can. Yes. Every time Joel and I see each other in a chat in someone else's video, I'm always like, what kind of cats do you have now? What are you fostering? Yeah. So I actually had to wrap up. I have some notes. I always do some research and take some notes on whatever video that I'm doing. I appreciate you guys so much. I've had a great chat with everybody, and this hour and a half actually flew past. I didn't want to go too much over an hour and a half, but I did want to talk a little bit about grieving. So grieving is a process, right? We all go through it in our own way, like we already talked about. We're going to cry. We're not going to cry. We're going to scream and throw a fit. We're going to ask God why. We're going to stop believing in God because, why would he take such a wonderful person like my best friend Judi off this planet? You know, um, Judi was another one who was always volunteering. She volunteered at both dog shelters and at a um, sanctuary for horses, where they would take in some of like the worst horses from the evil ass BLM and things like that. um, she had just a massive heart. She did so many kind things for so many people. So why would somebody so amazing get taken off of this earth? And we all know somebody like that. We all know somebody. Why would this person be taken so early, so young? Our friend Doug from here at SPTV, why would he be taken at the moment in his life where he was really doing good things in the community? Apparently he was reconnecting with his mom, and why this moment when he was really doing some great things in his life? All of us know those people, right? um so one thing that I think I already covered, but allow yourself some time to grieve. Allow yourself that grieving process. People around you are going to want you to get over it, right? Quote, get over it. Or they're going to want you to hurry up, or they're going to think it's been 2 years. Why are you still crying about this? Or why haven't you started dating yet? Your husband died 5 years ago. Or, there's so many people that have so many opinions about it. But you yourself, if you can take that time to allow yourself to grieve and try your best to, wear the earmuffs. I know it's really hard. And then, like I said before, don't think that you have to be strong. Don't think you have to be strong for other people. It's a different situation when like you want to be strong for your kids, I think. um I feel like that's a different situation. But when you feel like you have to, I've seen at funerals before where the widow or the parents of the child are comforting other people. And I that really bothers me. The That person should not have to be comforting other people at the funeral, at the wake, at the, you know, when you go back to work and people are coming up to you and you're doing the comforting. I think that just make sure that you watch that you're not expecting that grieving person to comfort you, you know. And don't expect them to be strong. Don't tell them to be strong. There's no reason why we should, um in this day and age when we're talking about taking care of ourselves and mental health, there's no reason why we should ask people to stay strong, you'll get through it, buck up, everything will be fine. We're over that. We're not doing that anymore. Seek support. Go to support groups, go to therapy. There's a million books that you can read. One that I really like that made me bawl all the way through it was Things I Wish I Knew Before My Mom Died. um, Something like that. I should have wrote the title down, but it's something along those lines. Things I Wish I Knew Before My Mom Died. I read it before my mom died, bawled my ass off through the entire thing. But it was a really great book. Um, if you're the type of person that finds solace in groups, there are lots of bereavement groups. Like my mom, she runs one at her church. If you go to church, if that's your thing, if you don't go to church, you can ask the funeral director and they will absolutely know where you can go. They will have a list of them. There are pet loss support groups. There are support groups online. They do through Zoom or, things like that. There are lots of places that you can find support groups if that helps you. If talking to other people in a similar situation helps you, then seek that out because that's something that is an invaluable resource. Talking to other people, even if even if you don't want therapy, um, talking to other people can really help. Or finding a chat room. So many chat rooms. You can find them on Facebook about grieving, um, loss of a child, loss of parents, loss of a spouse. There's so many different ways that you can find a group to talk to for whatever your like socialization style is. Like me personally, I don't like being in like a room and in a circle with other people. That does kind of bother me. Um Create a memorial. This is one thing that I really like. There's so many different ways to create a memorial. You can do a physical memorial like a scrapbook or people make little like I don't know if you call it a shrine, but like, a little corner in your house where you have some pictures and you light a candle and, that helps you think about this person every day and seeing a picture of them every day helps you. Or you can plant a tree, and you get to see that tree grow through the years. Something like that helps you. That person really loved nature. For my, ESA that passed away, I have a little brick in the memory garden that they have at National Mill Dog Rescue, and it's got her name on it, and I haven't seen it in person yet, but I've had several people send me pictures. Oh, I'll get to see it in person next year. But she's there. She's back at the shelter. She's always going to be remembered by my friends who were there because they all were working there when she was when she came in, when she was rescued. She's very special to them too, so that means a lot to me. My very first pet that passed away was a cat named Nikki. My first pet that was mine alone. Her name was Nikki, and she's got a little memorial in my parents' garden. So every time I go home to my parents' house, I go out into her memorial and I talk to her and I get to say hi. And she's actually buried there too, so she is there. But I like those tangible kinds of memorials that I can see. I have a scrapbook that I made for my husband of him and Tabitha growing up because they were very close growing up. They're really close in age. So, like, making that scrapbook was really good for me. It was really cathartic. And I felt good doing something nice for my husband so that he could have, the scrapbook anytime he wanted to look at it. Um, but there's also like you can make them a memorial website, and there's a lot of people who love the digital stuff. They love to make websites or um I know a couple people from high school that have passed, and one of them had a YouTube channel, and his YouTube channel is still up. And so every year on his birthday, people go and comment on it, and I think that that's really special. I think that, every year I see his sister make a comment and a bunch of his friends, and I think that's something that's really special. He was a musician, and so you can go and watch his videos, and feel close to him. Start new traditions, and that's something that as we're approaching the holidays, starting new traditions might be hard or it might be easy. We're locked into these family traditions that we've had over the years, right? Like my kids actually point out things that I didn't even know were traditions. Like maybe I've done them for a couple years, but I didn't really realize that the kids thought that that was an actual family tradition. And so if I skip a year, then they'll be sad. And then I'll be like, oh, okay, so that was special to you. Got it. I will do that every year from now on. But when I'm gone, there's gonna be all these traditions that apparently I started that my kids might have a hard time with, like mom's not here anymore. And, how do I do whatever XYZ? I do on Christmas Eve. I've always given them a book and pajamas ever since they were pretty little. And that's a tradition, and one year I skipped it, and I heard about it. So, there's ways that you can incorporate your loved one into your traditions. Um, Maybe they can gift each other a book that would remind them of me, or, you know, instead of just one person buying everyone the books, they can all buy each other a book, something like that to keep the tradition going. Or you have a family tradition of game night. So you can play the game that that person loved the most. There's so many ways that you can continue incorporating them into your traditions, but you can also just completely start a whole new tradition. You don't have to keep those. Traditions are are so um like they used to be so like set in stone, and like you had to do the same traditions, like our weddings. We have so many traditions and weddings that you have to do, or people, you know um when I was planning my wedding, I had a certain person in particular who was quite annoyed at me because I was giving up some traditions, and like you have to stay with them or whatever, blah blah blah. And starting new traditions can really help a family, like, the word that I hate, move on, right? And continue on with their family, with their holiday, with their lives, but without necessarily leaving that loved one behind, and that's a hard thing, especially like I said around the holidays. You're so worried about, mom always put the star on the tree, or dad always you know, cut the turkey, or um in our case, we've always had certain people in our family that have made certain dishes. My grandma always made certain thing. My other grandma always made certain thing. And so after they passed, we all kind of made sure that those dishes were still at dinner. We still had grandma's potatoes. We still had granny's pie. We still had, like, a great Aunt Lucille that I had made the best strawberry pie on the planet, and so I've always made strawberry pie in honor of her, because she was such a special lady in our family. So, that one is really hard to do, you know? Practice self-care is ridiculously important. I don't know what that comment is, but we're just gonna go ahead and erase it, okay? Practicing self-care is so important, and I cannot stress that it is one of the most neglected things when people are grieving. Just even taking a shower, getting out and getting fresh air, um, listening to music, reading a book. Um, I mean, like, go out and get your hair cut. Um, Go get a pedicure. Go get your nails done. If that's your kind of thing, maybe go get a whole new hairstyle, whole new hair color. Something that's going to remind you that you are still you. You are still this person. You still have needs and wants, even though your loved one isn't here anymore. Something that will help kind of kick you in gear. And for me, I am the type of person who will stay in bed. If I'm grieving, or if I'm really upset, or if I'm hitting a low in my depression, I will um, go and stay in bed. I can stay in bed for days and without a problem, with the exception that my dogs don't get on my bed with me and they will get very upset if I stay in bed for too long because they want to cuddle on the couch. But just do anything that's going to, get yourself up and moving. Wash your face, even, wash all the tears off of your face. um if you like to put on makeup, just put on some makeup, go to the store. There are so many little things that you can do that are considered like self-care. You don't have to go full blown, I'm going to go for a full spa day, and then I'm going to go to a movie, and then I'm going to go to a restaurant. You're going to get really tired really fast. So don't overdo it, but, definitely take care of yourself. That's so important, to not lose who you are and to not lose yourself in that grief. So just taking care of yourself. Hydrate is huge because you're going to be crying so much. You need to hydrate. Just pretty much keep a jug of water with you. Cry, 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 and then drink, drink, drink. Um, honor their memory, which we did talk about actually before. Honoring their memory by volunteering, donating to their cause. Everything that we were talking about before, doing something in their name. I think for me, that's one of my ways that I heal, is honoring their memory and doing something that, like, I know that they would be proud of me for this, and I know that it's something that they would have done, or um, they even thought about doing it, but they never got a chance to. You ever see like the movies where, they travel to whatever place because grandpa had always wanted to travel there and he never got a chance. So now we're going to go to Paris and we're going to see the Eiffel Tower for grandpa, something like that. I think that kind of stuff is really special too. It just keeps um their memory alive. You're seeing this thing through your eyes, and then in your heart you're like, my grandpa's here with me. My grandpa's also seeing this. And it does help. It helps a lot if you keep their memory, and you're honoring it and you're doing something for them in their name. The last thing that I have is express yourself creatively. And I think that when you get to the point where you can, whatever it is, get out of bed, you know, where you're coherent and you can do things, expressing yourself creatively is is what am I looking for? It's getting late, so my brain's starting to shut off. And I was in the desert all day outside in the sun, and so my brain got a little fried by the sun. So expressing yourself creatively is one thing. When I'm on the suicide hotline, this is one thing that I tell the kids a lot. It distracts your brain, right? It helps you focus on something else. Obviously, those creative outlets, they get the chemicals going, right? They get everything moving in that brain. Um, you need to use certain parts of your brain for creativeness. If you're writing, um, I love to write. And thank you so much, Ashley. All right, can you guys hear me now? I think I'm good now. Okay, am I good now? I lost my microphone for some reason. Technology. Jeez. So I was saying about expressing yourself with, art, dance, music, making yourself playlist, doing anything that's going to get your brain juices flowing, anything that's going to make you feel good inside, whether you ever share it or not. Maybe you'll share it with people, maybe you won't. I was saying that my mom and her bereavement group at church, she does art projects with her people. She's done she's gotten clay and done little pinch pots, or they've painted memorial rocks, or she does some cute stuff in her group. And I think that the people really appreciate that she comes up with, more than just sitting around and talking about being sad or whatever. So that is all I had to say for today. I think I had one more thing that I wanted to pop up. Oh, I saved some of my Doxy's hair and made resin earrings to have a bit of him with me. That is so cute. Aww. Hi, Barb. Thank you so much for showing up. Hi, Sophia. Thank you so much. Okay, sorry I went for like 5 minutes with no audio. I'll have to edit that out later. All right, guys, thank you so much for popping in and having a great discussion with me. One thing I love so much about this community is the great discussions that we get to have and the awesome people that I've met. And if you are grieving this year, and I know so many of us in this community are grieving right now, if you are grieving in this holiday season, please take care of yourself and do something for yourself, and talk to someone if you need to talk to someone. And don't try to bear all that weight by yourself, because it's a lot. It's a lot to bear, and you don't have to. There's so many people out there that understand, and even me. Definitely hit me up. I am on Facebook, or you'll see me in messages here and there, and chats here and there. Hit me up if you need to talk, and I'm here for you. And I understand how hard it is, and I understand what you're going through. So everybody have a wonderful night. And I am in my teenage son's room, and that's where I've set up my nice little studio here, except that he is coming home this weekend for Christmas break, which I'm really excited for, but I don't know where I'm going to set up now. Okay, so she says it's on my channel if anyone would like to know how to do something like that for themselves. That's awesome. I like your channel. I've gone through and watched some older videos and stuff. I'm awful at trying to get to lives. I feel so bad. I'm just awful about it. So I did want to advertise one thing. If you or anyone you know that are into sports, this is my son-in-law's channel. He just today posted a video about the holidays with his friend Kevin, but they're Coffee Shop Sports, and Zach and Kevin are both coffee connoisseurs, so they do go around LA where they live and taste different coffees at different shops. They're really cute. I love to watch them. Even though when they talk about football, I don't always quite understand what they're saying, but I think they're so cute. Thanks so much, everybody, and I will see you soon. Bye-bye. Thank you so much.